Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Kate.
And I'm Anna. And this week we're joined by one of our RFi colleagues in the Canada office. So something a little bit different. So welcome, Devina, to the podcast.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Kate. I'm so excited to be here with the two of you.
Thanks for joining us. And do you want to tell us about this episode and who you spoke to, so who you interviewed?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had the pleasure of interviewing Mary Kate Loftus, and she is the VP of Digital Banking at M&T Bank in the US. And we had a really wonderful session, and a lot of what we talked about was focused around all of the efforts that M&T is making around supporting small businesses in the US, women involvement in the community, and then of course, one of my favorite topics, we talked a lot about female leadership within not just M&T, but banking in general.
All topics we love as well.
I was just thinking that, especially female leadership, and yeah, that sounds like a great episode, and I'm really looking forward to hearing this. So let's have a listen.
All right, I'd like to welcome our guest to the podcast today. Welcome, Mary Kate Loftus, Senior VP of Digital Marketing at M&T Bank. Mary Kate, it's so nice to have you here today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, Devina.
Great. Mary Kate, just to start off, for all of our global listeners, would love for you to give us a little background and tell us a little bit about yourself, as well as maybe a little bit about M&T Bank as well.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to. So my name's Mary Kate Loftus. I'm the Director of Digital for M&T Bank. I am responsible for digital marketing, digital strategy, originations, omni-channel, web, online, and mobile. I am personally, I'm a career banker with more than 20 years experience, and have been so happy, being here at M&T Bank. The reason I just love M&T is really about, it's a bank that's grounded in community and purpose. M&T is a bank that meets the needs of our clients across the country. We have $150 billion in assets. And we're really all about, communities and knowing who our customers are. So it's a great place to be.
Great, thank you. And that actually segues really nicely into the next question I was going to ask you. So just based on, what you do, you're certainly really busy. And from what I've read, it's also been a really busy time for M&T Bank as a whole. Some wonderful new things that have been happening recently at the bank. I think, you've launched a new branch focused on financial empowerment, several multicultural banking centers, and like you said, a lot of focus on community events. All, really great topics and very close to my heart. So why is this such an focus area for M&T? And would love to also hear a little bit about, how your team was involved in this and how you got all of this off the ground.
M&T is really all about, we've always been all about listening to our customers. So making sure that we understand, because every community is different, understanding what's important to everyone that's in that community. So if I can tell you a story about our employees, they actually have 40 paid hours of volunteer time every year. So when it's vacation. And so what we're able to do is understand what each of those communities need. So as you mentioned, we've opened multicultural branches. And just recently I had the opportunity to go down to Baltimore, and I spent some time in our Fells Point branch, and there's another branch right nearby that meets the needs of clients who speak Korean. And you're able to, within those, get support for people that understand and speak the language that reflects the community that they're in. We also have, taken our approach where it's not just about person to person, but also online. So we've launched, mtb.com /en Espanol, and customers are able to kind of navigate and get the information that they need. And when we think about communities too, it's really all about, we really believe in Small Business Week this week, which is great that we're having the interview, that small businesses power each of our communities. And we've launched something that I think is really cool. It's called the M&T Virtual Spotlight Shop. And what we do is, if you go online, you can just Google it. We're able to highlight our clients in each community. Oh. And what's really been cool is we're able to expand the reach of those businesses. So some businesses maybe that were selling just locally actually are able to get more exposure through the bank's website and tell their stories. And there's some really, I think innovative things going on. If I can tell you one more thing too, I'm really excited about.
Of course.
Added about. But I mentioned that, at M&T, it's really important for us to be engaged in our community, and I'm very active in our local United Way. And there's an organization called Women United, and we're all about empowering women and lifting up women to achieve all their full potential. And as through this, I've signed up for this thing called Over the Edge, and in 2 weeks, I'm going to propel down the M&T Bank building, which is 21 stories high.
You're brave.
And I know, but what's the best part of it is that when I put this out on social media and I told people about it, the response has been phenomenal. And there's actually now a whole team of people that are from M&T, but also from other local organizations that together are going to do this. And we've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Women and Children's Hospital, the John Roshai Children's Hospital here in Buffalo, and also our local United Way. And I am like, it's going to be exhilarating and it's going to be exciting, but I'm really excited. But that altogether is how the bank is, supporting our communities in so many ways.
No, that's really fantastic. And thank you for sharing. And particularly, after the last year and a half or so that we've had, that's been so difficult, especially across, for small businesses and some of these organizations you've just mentioned. So it's really nice to hear the organization as well as yourself kind of bringing people together to help and support not just your clients, but also your community. So that's fantastic. I want to actually ask you a little bit, your role within the digital marketing, as well as, being so close to some of the innovations that are happening in the industry. Of course, with COVID, 2020 and probably a good portion of 2021 as well, we've seen sort of this accelerated need for digital solutions, which must have kept your team really busy, more so than normal. Just can you maybe give our global listeners a little bit of insights into some of the key trends that you're seeing in banking and maybe even fintech at the moment?
Absolutely. And you can see, Devina, where I'm sitting right now is at the M&T Tech Hub in Buffalo. And it was built as a way to be able to bring together fintechs, entrepreneurs, really just like-minded creative designers to co-create solutions for our customers. What we saw, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, is that it shined a light that probably banks weren't doing as great a job as they should be meeting the needs of clients. And so rapidly, we luckily we're already well on our way of listening and understanding what those needs were and working through what our ways of working would be to quickly build and iterate. But it really allowed us to move faster than we ever did before. We saw that we could be as effective remotely, but we know also at the same time that being together is also a really powerful thing to exchange ideas and build connections. So I think what we learned is that we can be effective, but we could be even better when we're together. And we also learned that customers where perhaps in the past, a lot of maybe bankers specifically might have written off certain customer groups and said, oh, they're not going to become digitally enrolled or digitally active, digitally engaged. And what we learned is that absolutely, there are no limitations. There are no boundaries on customer behaviors. What they really care about is knowing that it's going to be safe. It's going to be, they can trust what they're doing, and it's going to be easy. And as long as we do that, we found that digital activity across the board has risen substantially, and it has not come down. So it has made those customer behavior changes are here to stay, without a doubt. And then I'll just share the third point is that when what we learned during the pandemic was really that we can have awesome outside-in insights that tell us here's how we can meet our customer needs. And usually it's from listening directly to customers and employees. And once we find those, the magic is how fast can we build it and get it out in front of people because the pace of change has just accelerated more than I've ever seen in my career. So those are some trends that we're seeing.
Excellent. And then what do you think are the impacts of that to the industry overall? I know, COVID has obviously had impacts across a range of things, but, what would you say in terms of kind of, banking or even digital banking, some of the impacts that you're seeing as a result of COVID?
Yeah, I think that the what it really is going to mean long term. Two things come to mind. The first is we talk about a war for talent. It is true. It is real. That the most talented people across the country. We really are competing for folks that can apply those insights, be able to get them out. And we have to create a culture where people say, I love coming to work. Like, I love the people I work with. I love the culture. I believe it's grounded in purpose. And then the second, I believe, what it means for our industry is that there's been, I feel like I'll call it like a great awakening, right? Of so many people understanding like what's really important in their life and how do they want to spend their time. And what that means is that for the banking industry, we have to make sure that everyone that works for an organization has that deep connection to something bigger, to a purpose, to the community, right? And that's why, what I see in my experience here is that's why, and I'll just speak for M&T, we've been able to attract top talent from around the country because people say, I think what you're building is something really different, really special, and I want to be part of it. And as you go forward, that I believe is going to be the banks that can do that the best are going to be the ones that can meet customer needs the best.
No, that's excellent. And just really interesting what you mentioned about retaining and attracting talent. And that wide awakening to your point, when spending so much time at home with limited options and work becomes such a huge part of your life. That's absolutely so great that the organization is putting so much thought and effort into making sure that people enjoy their work coming to M&T. So great things. And then what would you say would be some challenges that you might face in the sort of, I can't say that we're in a post-pandemic world quite yet, but we're, trying to get there and planning ahead. So what would you say are some of the challenges that, you foresee and are starting to prepare for?
I believe one of the biggest challenges we will face is the acceleration of changing customer needs and how fast banks can meet them. That means in some cases, it's like an evolving business model. Like, how will banks, like it used to just be digital was your online and mobile app. And now digital is really, how do you make a customer feel like we are with you every step of the way, whether you're with us or you're out on your own somewhere. And that's how we use data to be able to connect the dots and understand customer behaviors, customer desires. So as we continue to go, I think that having people within each organization and at the bank that are able to design those experiences is really important. Who we're competing against now is not just the community bank next door or the next regional bank or even the big banks. It's fintech. So that evolving landscape makes it really important because we believe that customers come to banks because they trust banks. And as we continue to build that trust, we have to deliver the experiences that customers desire. So I feel like those two items are really going to be our biggest challenges going forward.
Great. And then was there anything that surprised you about this past year in sort of, customer behaviors? Because the way we've managed our banking relationships in the last 18 months or so, and, a lot of what you've already said has just changed so drastically. So what, did anything surprise you as well? Is there anything that you think might become a permanent behavior that you're also really excited about?
Yes, I believe and I'll look at it from two angles. The first angle is from a customer behavior point of view. What has surprised me is the fact that the shift to digital in every aspect of an interaction from a client experience. There was always the debate, will it return to, pre-pandemic levels? And the answer is no, nothing is ever going back to pre-pandemic levels. And the reason being, it's a fundamental change in how people believe and how they live their lives. The second, I think, thing that surprised me is that what came out of the pandemic really wasn't, I think what people are left with, it's not the superficial things. It really is about the importance of life, time, health, family, And I really believe for the next generation, at least everyone that's lived through this, those are going to be lasting. And that mindset shift means that we as leaders and we as, people that are running and leading financial institutions have to continue to recognize that and shift to be there where our customers need it and when they need it.
Great. Also, once again, it nicely transitions into the next set of questions that I have. You just mentioned leadership. And one of my favorite topics as someone who's worked in financial services and now works with partners in the financial services, I love talking about female leadership in general, but also female leadership in banking. So I just wanted to know if you could maybe talk a little bit about, the goals that M&T as an organization has around women in leadership.
Absolutely. I am equally, Devina, as passionate about the topic. Good. It's so important, and it's so important for many reasons. I'll first talk about M&T's position and beliefs on that. We believe that it's the right thing to be a leader in ensuring that we have one of the most, diverse, strong organizations that reflect those communities that we're serving. I'm really proud. We had released our first report that kind of publicly talks about that. And in there, you'll see that we have, of our board membership, 40% are people of color and women, which is absolutely, I believe, that's phenomenal. We had 3 new board members added last year, and 2 of which are these amazing women, which is really cool. We also have, when we think about how we will continue to grow the pipeline of women in the organization, there is, and I just got off a presentation that was talking about this to the leadership teams across the bank. We have set targets that say we will continue to recruit, we will measure and monitor, we will pay attention to the changing labor market, because what we are seeing, and this is well documented now, is that women entering or perhaps leaving and opting out of the workforce is happening at an alarming rate. And how does M&T continue to attract, support, be adaptable to the needs of women so that we can make sure that we are recruiting top talent, we continue to invest and grow. So, and I'm with you, I like to just talk about leadership, not female leadership, but unfortunately we're not quite at that point. So we have to,
right.
we have to talk. But no, it really is. And I'll share one more story because I believe so much in women supporting women. I was super proud today. I woke up and like everyone, right, I might scroll through my phone a little bit. And on LinkedIn, I saw that one of my colleagues, Elvina Lowe, was just selected as one of the top 50 Asian American business leaders in America. And you just, when you look at that, I think that there's a recognition, but I think it's proof points that that when we give women opportunities to lead, we are better off as an organization in our performance and as a community. So
yeah, and I know
really happy about that.
As an industry, we've made, there's been a lot of strides, but still a lot of room for improvement. We've still got ways to go. Why would you say it's become, or maybe it already always has been, why is it such a focus for M&T to, have women in leadership be so important to the organization?
Well, I'll give 2 very easy reasons. The first is that beyond the fact that it's the right thing to do, and as always. But I do believe, I think that studies have shown that when you have more women in leadership, we have a better risk management culture where it's very balanced. And then the other is that it really enables people to bring their full self to work, where we have cultures and environments where when we see an equitable and balanced leadership team, it allows all people to feel they can raise their hand, they can take risks in their career, they can go to lead and feel supported. So it does in the end improve performance. And that's why I'm really happy to see, the numbers are strong, but they'll continue to get better. I have no doubt.
Great. So now this is the part of the interview where I ask you some questions about you and you as a leader. What would you say are some of the most important lessons that you've learned about leadership over the course of your career?
Thank you for asking me that question. That is a beautiful question. I'd love to hear the same from you. Actually, we'll do a reverse interview. I believe I will even just say one. I feel that my most important leadership lesson that I've learned is to not place any artificial constraints or limits on what we can do, and have that belief that that as you go forward, as you take risks, as you bring your best self and everything that you could do, that there really is no limit on what you can be able to achieve. I have been so blessed to have many influential and important people in my life that before I even saw it myself, they would kind of like give me a hand up and say, I think you can do this. And I hope that, you know, and I really do work very hard at making sure that I'm now often the one extending a hand saying, come with me. Like, I trust you. I want to give you the exposure. I want to give you the opportunity. And sometimes people say, thank you, I'm ready. And sometimes they say, oh my gosh, like I can't do this. And what I try to do is always say, I believe in you. I see it. Let's do it. You know, and I got your back. We'll be here. So that to me is ultimately what I believe is the best leadership lesson. And one last thing too is that remembering the why. Like, I feel like as I've gone through the years, what I've learned in my career is it's having that real grounding and like a sense of purpose in who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in. And as you live that, you model that behavior, but it gives you that strength deep in your core so that you can make the right decision at that moment of truth. And you can support people when they need it. And if you have that, you will be able to create change beyond like what you ever could imagine.
That's really great advice. Hearing that.
And now, what is yours? I would love.
Well, you know, for me, I think one of the big things, and I tried to sort of do that with myself, is taking risks. I'm just not sort of looking and saying, oh, I don't think I can do that, or it looks too hard, but just saying, you know what, why don't I try it out? I can always ask for help. And if I don't try it, I don't know. I'm just going out of my comfort zone. So that's something I've really focused on doing or trying for the last few years, because I really think it's really important to push yourself, try different things and expand your horizons. And I think also just the belief that, you know, in a lot of ways, you're in the driver's seat for where you want your career, not just your career, anything really to go. You just have to sort of get in the driver's seat and kind of figure out, you know, what you want to do, where you want this to go, and then figure out the steps and reach out to people who you think could help you, give you the advice, look for mentors. To help you in that driver's seat, in that journey. So I think those would be the two sort of big ones that I've been really focused on.
And that's fantastic, Devina. When you, I'm sure that part of what drives you to be able to get to that place is probably a quest for learning. And I think that that's something that as people, especially women, are advancing in their careers, to be constantly open to learning. Like, the marketplace is changing and technology is changing so rapidly. There is no end to learning. You just have to read, you have to network, you have to connect, you have to research, talk to, you know, the emerging talent in your organization, find out what they're thinking about. And that opens like all of these insights and will allow you to continue to grow and stretch. One last thing we didn't talk about, but I do think it's important, is particularly as we're still in the pandemic, the importance of resilience. And that what that really means is taking care of yourself. So something that we do at M&T is we actually, and I do this with my team, is every quarter we do what's called a resiliency audit. And what that means is we check in on how are you taking care of yourself spiritually, physically, emotionally, how's your work-life balance? And then identifying what needs to change, because people are under more stress than they realize. They may have grief that they haven't dealt with in terms of loss of their routines, loss of normal life, so to speak, and making sure that people are sleeping, exercising, eating healthy. That enables a person, and particularly women, because we often are the caregivers, to be able to go and to be able to bring the energy that you need so that you can succeed. So I'd say focus on resiliency is a leadership lesson that everybody can apply.
And, you know, Mary Kate, if I can add to that, I think, you know, before the pandemic, people perhaps weren't as open about talking publicly with their colleagues or even their friends and family about sort of self-care and stress and, things like not sleeping and dealing with grief. And if there's, some positives coming out of how we've dealt with the pandemic, the fact that you're able to and are doing these activities and sessions and putting that focus on kind of dealing with these issues and letting people know that they have the support from their work teams and their employers, I think goes a really long way in making a positive working environment for everyone. Wonderful. And I know we're slowly running out of time, but there is one last question that I do want to ask you. And you've, of course, had such an impressive career. You're doing so much at M&T. But if you were to look back, what would you tell your younger self?
That is such a hard question. And first of all, thank you for the kind comments. But that is such a tough question, because I feel that every experience and every way that I went is what brought me to today. I would tell my younger self to be fearless, like to be yourself and to embrace that, because there's something, for example, everybody has it. What's uniquely Devina is different from what's uniquely Mary Kate. And I and everyone else, right? You don't have to be anyone else to be successful. You find what is true to you and you live it. And if you do that, the right experiences will flow to you. You'll surround yourself by the right people, and you will be happier and you'll be able to succeed. So that would be my life lesson looking back at my career. And I hope that helps other people who may be listening today.
No, that's really great. And thank you for sharing that. I'm sure we've got listeners who will take something away from that and hopefully apply it to their own lives. But Mary Kate, it's been so lovely chatting with you today. And I wish we could, talk for a few more hours, because I'm sure there's just so much ground we can cover. But we would love for you to come back and join us again, and tackle a whole different set of topics maybe when we do that. But once again, thank you so much for making the time and chatting with us.
I appreciate it so much, and I will make a promise. I will come back, but on the condition that I can bring some awesome women, especially to people of color, and everybody come together and let's have a great conversation about the future of banking and how we meet customer needs.
Yeah, we would love that, and we'll look forward to it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Global Digital Banker podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and Podbean.